You probably never imagined a day would come when someone would straight up call Jay-Z Bozo the Clown. But hey, this is hip-hop. Nothing's off limits. Things got even wilder when Prodigy from Mobb Deep doubled down and took it further, clowning Jay by calling him a camel. Yeah, the disrespect was real. This whole feud didn't just pop out of nowhere. It started brewing way back during the legendary East Coast versus West Coast era. And the wildest part? The spark that lit the fire between Jay-Z and Mobb Deep wasn't even started by either of them. It came from another rapper entirely. Back in the day, Snoop Dogg and Pound were filming a video for their track, New York, New York. The record was supposed to be a salute to the city, a kind of West Coast homage to the Big Apple. But the beat had a familiar sound to it, one that reminded people of the same vibe Biggie used in his St. Ides beer commercial. And given how tense things were between the coasts at the time, folks took it the wrong way. They thought Snoop was throwing shade at Biggie and the entire East Coast. The video shoot went down in Red Hook, Brooklyn on December 16, 1995. It was originally meant to show love to New York, but that didn't last long. During an interview on Hot 97, Biggie went off while talking to Funkmaster Flex, saying the city was wild for letting Snoop and his crew film there after all the tension. He allegedly even leaked the shoot's location live on air. Not long after, shots were fired at Pound's trailer. That incident completely flipped the tone of the music video. Now, instead of showing appreciation for New York, Snoop and his crew rewrote the story to make it a straight-up diss video, featuring that infamous shot of Snoop Dogg kicking down skyscrapers in NYC. To East Coast rappers, that was straight-up disrespect. So, Mobb Deep took it personal. They clapped back when they hopped on Capone and Noreaga's track, LA, turning it into a cold-blooded response track defending their city's honor. Fast forward to 1998, and Jay-Z decided to jump in the mix. On his song, Money, Cash, Hoes, he dropped a slick line about the whole situation. It's like New York's been soft ever since Snoop came through and crushed the buildings. I'm trying to restore the feeling. That one bar was enough to ignite a new beef. Prodigy didn't hold back either. He clapped back in interviews, calling Jay-Z a bitch boy and accusing him of frontin' about the life he rapped about. He even doubled down in the Source magazine, appearing on the cover as a solo artist and saying Jay-Z had no right to speak on New York's toughness since he didn't say a word when Pound originally dissed the city. All that tension led to the infamous 2001 Summer Jam, where Jay-Z made hip-hop history, and a whole lot of enemies. On that stage, he unleashed The Takeover for the very first time. The track is mostly remembered for his war with Nas, but what people forget is that Jay also went at Mobb Deep. Hard. He didn't just throw bars, he humiliated Prodigy on stage. Jay had a photo projected on the screen of Prodigy as a kid dressed like Michael Jackson, back when P used to dance in his grandma's school. The crowd went nuts as Jay mocked him mid-performance, and that moment went down in hip-hop history. Most people only remember The Takeover as Jay-Z's Nas diss, but listen closely. Jay cut deep at Prodigy too. On the first verse, he sent a chilling warning: "Your reach ain't long enough." And that was just the beginning of one of hip-hop's most underrated and savage rivalries ever. That line, "Don't let me do it to you, Dunny, 'cause I overdo it," wasn't just clever wordplay. It was a straight shot at Prodigy's height and slang. The word Dunny came from that Queensbridge lingo Mobb Deep and Nas helped make famous in the 90s, and Jay twisted it into an insult that hit home. He was basically saying, "Don't make me embarrass you because when I go in, I don't miss." That was the warning shot, but Jay didn't stop there. He took it to another level on the second verse. Jay went full savage mode, calling Mobb Deep out by name. He spit, "I don't care if you Mobb Deep. I hold triggers to cruise you, little dude. I got money stacks bigger than you. When I was pushing weight back in '88, you was a ballerina. I got the pictures. I seen you." That last part, the ballerina line, became one of the most iconic disses in hip-hop history. It referenced the same embarrassing childhood photos Jay later used at Summer Jam, when he put Prodigy's picture on the big screen for the whole world to see. The crowd lost it, and that moment pretty much cemented their beef forever. But things didn't just stay between Jay-Z and Prodigy. This drama started spilling into the streets. Around that same time, Jay ended up getting into it with one of Prodigy's close friends, the late E-Moneybags. Here's where it got real. Jay was up at Hot 97, doing an interview with his Rockefeller crew. Beanie Sigel, Memphis Bleek, Emil, and a rapper named H Moneybags. Now that name caused an instant problem because E Moneybags, a real street dude from Queens, felt like Jay was letting one of his artists jack his name. The two had history. Jay and E Moneybags had actually gone to the same high school, so when Jay let another MC use the name, E Moneybags took it as pure disrespect. When Prodigy heard about it, he called up Hot 97 right there on air, asking to speak to Jay so E Moneybags could holler at him directly. That moment put the tension on full blast. After that call, rumors started flying that Jay-Z was laying low, not stepping out like usual because this wasn't some lyrical battle. This was real street pressure. Mobb Deep wasn't about to let things slide either. When they dropped their fifth album, Infamy, Prodigy made sure to send another round of shots Jay's way. On the track Crawlin', he spit, "Rapper H to the, come on man, I ain't gotta spell it for you. And your retaliation was weak, baby pictures? How you not gonna show face after that? Stunt at Rap's Only Awards and you ain't show up, you scared." That was Prodigy calling Jay out directly, saying Jay was ducking award shows because he knew things could go left fast. Reports at the time even claimed Jay skipped out on big events like the MTV Awards, the Source Awards, and BET appearances after the beef escalated. And it wasn't just Prodigy talking tough. Other people in the circle backed it up. Omega, who was close to Mobb Deep, allegedly warned Jay that Prodigy wasn't playing and would shoot him if he had to. And anyone who knew Queensbridge knew that wasn't just empty talk. Prodigy and Havoc were respected in the streets because they actually lived the life they rapped about. Eventually, though, the streets and the spotlight collided when Jay-Z and Prodigy finally came face to face. Not at an award show, not on a stage, but at Diddy's restaurant, Justin's. The story goes that Prodigy realized Jay was in the same spot after the DJ announced Jay-Z and Jermaine Dupri's arrival. And you could just feel the tension in the air explode. The whole room froze when Prodigy realized Jay-Z was in Diddy's restaurant that night. The DJ had just announced, "Jay-Z and Jermaine Dupri in the building!" And boom, all eyes turned. Prodigy, sitting there with his crew, instantly clocked the energy shift. You could feel the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Instead of ducking, Prodigy stood his ground. Jay-Z walked over, calm and confident, but you could tell both of them were testing each other's temperature. No shouting, no pushing. Just that silent type of beef where every look says 1,000 words. According to people who were there, they exchanged words quietly, but it was clear neither man was backing down. See, by this time, Jay-Z wasn't just another rapper. He was the face of the industry. And Prodigy, he was the voice of the streets. They came from two different worlds colliding right in front of Diddy's expensive decor. That meeting at Justin's symbolized exactly what hip-hop was becoming, a cold war between corporate success and raw authenticity. Now, while fans saw The Takeover and thought it was all about Nas verses, Jay, those who really followed the culture, knew that Mobb Deep's feud with Hav had been just as personal, maybe even more dangerous. This wasn't just about bars. This was about pride, respect, and survival in the game. After that restaurant encounter, things went quiet for a while. Too quiet. Jay kept building his empire, launching Rocawear, expanding Rockefeller, and positioning himself as hip-hop royalty. But behind the scenes, the tension never truly disappeared. Prodigy felt that Jay had crossed a line by trying to humiliate him publicly at Summer Jam, and that wasn't something easily forgiven. In interviews later, Prodigy explained how deep it really went. He said Jay-Z's move wasn't just disrespect, it was strategic humiliation. He felt Jay used his power and platform to make him look weak in front of the entire hip-hop world, especially New York. For someone like Prodigy, whose reputation was built on being fearless and authentic, that kind of hit cuts deeper than any lyric could. But here's the twist. While Prodigy was ready for war, Jay was playing chess. He knew that keeping things lyrical in public worked in his favor, especially as the world was starting to crown him the King of New York. Hav wasn't about to risk that image by getting dragged into a street situation, so he did what he did best. He let the music and his success talk for him. Still, the tension lingered. Prodigy later revealed that people from Jay-Z's camp started acting weird whenever they'd cross paths. You could tell they didn't want smoke, but didn't want peace either. It was that uneasy truce energy. Meanwhile, Mobb Deep kept firing subliminals, letting Jay know they weren't scared. Then, Just when things seemed to cool off, Prodigy went public again in an interview saying Jay-Z was fake peacekeeping. He said Jay was pretending to be the mature one, while quietly trying to control the industry, block opportunities, and look down on rappers who weren't part of his elite circle. Even years later, when both men had moved on to bigger ventures, Prodigy still had strong feelings. In his book, My Infamous Life, he detailed everything, from the early disrespect to the behind-the-scenes power plays. He even wrote that Jay-Z's calm demeanor at Justin's wasn't confidence. It was fear disguised as class. But what's wild is that despite all the shade and subliminals, both rappers eventually learned to coexist in the same space. By the late 2000s, they were both seen at the same events again. No words exchanged, just a mutual understanding that hip-hop beef can make legends, but it can also destroy them. Their feud became one of those classic New York stories, part pride, part pain, and part power struggle. It wasn't just two rappers trading bars. It was a reflection of hip-hop itself, evolving from the gritty blocks of Queensbridge to the polished boardrooms of Manhattan. And in that story, both Jay-Z and Prodigy left scars and history. When Prodigy found out Jay-Z was in that building, he wasn't about to just let it slide. Not after everything that went down. P's blood was boiling, and he told his crew, "We pullin' up." So they waited for Jay outside the restaurant, ready for whatever. They didn't just stand around either. Prodigy's team spread out on both sides of the exit, making sure there was no way Jay could sneak out without being seen. The tension that night was unreal. According to people who were there, one of P's close homies even suggested shooting Jay-Z right then and there. That's how deep it had gotten. But Prodigy, despite all the anger, decided to cool it. He didn't want to take it that far. He figured a good old-fashioned beatdown would get the message across just fine. That was the plan, until Jay finally walked out. When Jay-Z stepped out of the restaurant, he knew eyes were on him. He tried to play it smooth, walking like everything was normal, but when he spotted Prodigy waiting, things got real quiet. Everyone held their breath. Instead of talking tough, Jay approached P calmly, looked him dead in the eye, and said it wasn't that serious, it was just music. But here's where it gets ironic, because in The Takeover, Jay himself said, "Don't let me do it to you, Dunny, cause I overdo it, so you won't confuse it with just rap music." So for him to suddenly call it just music in person, that hit different. Prodigy later said that moment was wild because it showed how quick people switched once things got real. That night, things could have easily gone left. One wrong move, and the entire New York rap scene might have changed forever. Prodigy said straight up, he saved Jay-Z's life that night. He could have let his crew handle business, but he told them to let it go and let Jay walk. Whether you believe that or not, one thing's for sure. This was no petty rap feud. This was real tension, and it could have turned deadly if cooler heads hadn't stepped in. The crazy part? The public barely paid attention. The Jay-Z versus Nas war was dominating headlines, so this beef between Jay and Mobb Deep got buried under the noise. But in the streets, everyone knew. This was serious business. Years later, Jay-Z said in interviews that before Prodigy passed away, they actually made peace and showed mutual respect. They both understood that what happened back then was just part of hip-hop's growing pains. Two titans fighting for their place in history. Still, depending on who you ask, the streets tell a different story. Some say Jay won because he humiliated P publicly. Others swear Prodigy had the real respect, because no matter how big Jay got, he knew the streets of Queensbridge weren't scared of him. Rest in peace to Prodigy, one of the realest to ever do it. If you're loving these deep dives into hip-hop history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More wild stories are coming your way.